Hi everyone! Thank you for joining us again on our road trip around Sumatra. In today's episode, we'll tell you a bit more about our experiences on the western side of Lake Toba, and also we're going to bring you along while we explore Pulau Samosir. So we were coming from Sidikalang, and to head back down to Lake Toba, you have to drive a little mountain road. It's a beautiful road. It gives you amazing views over the lake and also the surrounding area. So it's a lot of fun to drive that connecting road via Tele. When we were getting closer to the lake, we were suddenly stopped. We were a bit confused, like what's going on? There was a checkpoint. Until after a while, we figured out it was just a vaccination checkpoint. So luckily, Danu and I, we already had our jabs and we were all right. They let us pass through. However, some people who didn't have their certificates yet, they had the two choices. They either were supposed to drive back or they also had an option to get the vaccination right there on this mountain. So yeah, they're really trying to get everyone vaccinated. Our first stop was at the Menara Padang viewpoint. Padang Tele. Our first stop was at Menara Padang. Pandang. Our first stop was at Menara Pandang Tele, which is a viewpoint. They have a tower, and you can climb up the 3 different floors. And it really gives you beautiful views all over the place. So definitely stop there. There's also a little coffee shop nearby. It's a good place to rest and chill for a while. We continued to drive further down the hill and had another stop at Bukit Sibeabea. It's like this new place to be. It was highly recommended to us, but yeah, to be honest, for me and also for Danu, it's really like a highly overrated spot. Just like lots of people who go there to take pictures for their Instagram. So what they did in that place is there's a hill. They built a road going up on the hill. So there's like this winding road where everybody stops to take pictures, and on top of the hill they are still constructing an enormous cross. So yeah, well, check it out for yourself if you're into these kind of places. But for us, it was kind of like, I would have to say it was pretty much a waste of 50,000 because that's how much they charge per car to get into the area. But okay.
We are crossing to the Samosir Island.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome to Samosir. And then we finally crossed over on the Oni Bridge to Pulau Samosir. Now, before I tell you a bit more, I personally have to be honest, I actually prefer exploring the area around Lake Toba a bit more than Pulau Samosir itself. However, if you've never been there, I think it is really one of those must places in Indonesia. So it's very unique, so definitely go and check it out. So on Pulau Samosir, you always have to remind yourself that you are actually on an island which is surrounded, of course, by a lake, which is in an old volcanic crater. So just that by itself, the location by itself, I think it's really mind-blowing. And another thing that makes Pulau Samosir very unique is the Batak culture there. You can really see the Batak culture everywhere. So when you're driving on the road, you'll find these very large grave sites, which they already built for their elders. And also there are lots of different traditional houses on the island. And for me, the most special thing is to see how the Batak people combine like modern life with their old traditions. So lots of those old traditional wooden houses, they actually, in the back, they have like a concrete building connected to it. So it's combining, I guess, the best of both worlds. So Danu and I, we decided to drive around the northern side of the island first. Our first stop was at Tomok, and we were looking there for the Batak Museum as we wanted to find out a bit more about the Batak culture and the lifestyle of the locals there. The first thing that we ended up seeing actually was a Sigale Gale show. So Sigale Gale is a traditional Batak dance around this wooden sculpture which kind of looks like a human. And of course it is a tradition on Pulau Samosir, but in this place it seemed like just a show for the tourists, to be honest. So there were tourists who were able to join it. However, it was still quite interesting to see. And then before we would actually be able to get to the Batak Museum, we had to cross through a giant, really a giant area full of souvenir stalls, or ole-ole stalls, how they call them here. So it felt almost surreal. We couldn't believe it. Like, it just wouldn't stop. Just the same stuff over and over and over again. And then somewhere at the far end of all this like souvenir market, pretty much, we found the small Batak Museum. So you can kind of see what seems to be more important in this place. But yeah. Volcano lost 74,000 years ago, and then the whole filled with water, and it's now the biggest caldera in the world. Soon after Tomok, the road actually goes up into the hills, and we stopped there at the Pahelo viewpoint for some drinks, and Danu had to have Indomie. So normally he doesn't really eat that, but some of our neighbors, they were ordering the famous Indomie, and once he smelled it, he just couldn't resist. So that's what happens with Indomie. It's famous here in Indonesia. We enjoyed the views for a while, and then we continued driving again up into the hills, and then over and down on the other side of the island again. We also passed by Lake Sidihoni, which would also be a great place to stop and camp for a night. It's a pretty much an empty area, like an empty grass surrounding this small lake with lots of cows and kids running around. However, it felt a bit cold for us, so instead we decided to continue driving and further down back to the lake, and hoping that down there it would be less freezing for the night. Our search for a camping spot once again turned out a little bit tricky, as lots of the properties, of course, around the lake, like right on the lake, they have already been sold, so they are kind of like blocked off. However, after a while, we managed to find an empty space of land right next to the lake, so we decided to just put our car there and spend the night in that spot. And it turned out to be a great spot. We had it to ourselves, and soon after we arrived, there was an amazing sunset. It was just, one of those mind-blowing sunsets where nature is just like showing off. French crab à la Julie. À la camping. Use what you have. So we relaxed for a while, then I cooked some savory crepes. And because it was still early and I still had energy, I even did a little bit of writing and taking some notes for my blog, and of course also taking notes so I can tell you guys a bit more about what was happening.
Good morning, guys. This is our last day in Toba Lake, and then maybe also in North Sumatra, and we will continue our trip to West Sumatra province, and from here we will take a ferry from islands Samosir Island to the mainlands, and let's see if we can get it or not. And thank you, Toba Lake, for a very good experience.
We would have loved to stay a bit longer, but we knew that there were only 2 ferries heading back to the mainland on that day, so we decided to take the one in the morning and left quite quickly. On our way to the ferry, we were almost running out of petrol. So what had happened the day before was that Danu refused to put in some Pertamax into the car, because Pertamax is the more expensive petrol and was the only petrol that we found at a Pertamina, so like the proper gas station on Pulau Samosir. But according to Danu, Pertamax is only for the rich people. So we were not allowed to put it into Black Pearl. But what happened the next day was that we were pretty much out of petrol, so we had to stop on the road to buy some petrol, which I actually do all the time. However, this time it turned out to be a big mistake. We should have known better already when we saw the guy who sold us the petrol like pumping the gas with a cigarette in his mouth. So that should have given it away that something's wrong with this place. But yeah, we didn't really have a choice, so we were just hoping for the best. But as you will find out a bit later, wrong decision.
So one thing that I still remember about Samosir, when we were going into the ferry in the seaport, because we were lazy to take a land road, so we decided to take to just crossing the lake. And yeah, it was interesting. We have to going backward, get into the ferry. Yeah, it was like a bit nervous, but yeah, it was a challenge for me. But the guy helped us, and yeah, we just did it. But for me, it's just still very interesting to do.